This is Margaret Schlachter, and I am here with the crew from Tough Mudder. So thanks, everybody from Tough Mudder HQ, for being here on this call today.
We're all glad to be here.
So you guys just sent me over just a little bit ago some of the athletes that we're going to see that are confirmed for Tough Mudder X coming up. And this is exciting. You guys have this is going to be amazing. The athletes coming. And I just want to jump into it, maybe because I'm a female and I watch the CrossFit Games pretty much religiously every year. This with Margot Alvarez and Stacy Tovar coming to Tough Mudder X. So, Iraq, this is kind of your world. So do you want to talk, can you kind of talk about who these two women are for those that don't know the CrossFit world and why I'm geeking out over here?
Well, certainly, and I'm right there with you. I'm fully into the lineup we have on both the men's and the women's side, but certainly this women's side, this women's ticket, these top women, like as you said before, Margot Alvarez, Stacy Tovar, along with others too. If you look down that list and what most people will see if they come out to Minnesota is this, we have like a star-studded CrossFit list on there, as well as the other disciplines as well. But yeah, so Stacy Tovar, Margot Alvarez, these are two girls that have been year after year like on top of their sport. I mean, these girls are constantly sitting in the top 10, if not the podium, each year at the CrossFit Games. And the CrossFit Games is, for some of your listeners who don't know exactly what it is, I mean, it's literally to this date been the absolute test of overall fitness. I mean, their slogan is like the proven athletes, the fittest on earth. And these two women are consistently, as I said before, on the top of their game each and every year. We get to see them really kind of step out of their comfort zone. And in speaking with both of these athletes, prior to, this interview today, they're so excited. I mean, they're ready to do this because not only is this, a really cool experience for them to step out of their comfort zone, to really see where their training where they may need to adjust their training, but it's also preparation. The CrossFit Games is only a couple weeks after TMX. And so these ladies are trying to create that stimulus in their training, create that stimulus in their body to have them just adapt, because the CrossFit Games is like TMX. You just don't know what's going to be thrown at you. And so, yeah, we're going to see this really cool showdown, the same girls that you're going to see on ESPN in a few weeks after.
And it's, and I do know from past, I mean, the CrossFit Games has kind of had some obstacle elements to it over the years, but I'm wondering, and maybe this is something Nolan or Chris that are on the call, how do you think these athletes are going to do when, say, you put like a Everest in front of them or a funky monkey or something? That's kind of, that's a different element for these athletes.
Well, it's going to be pretty cool to watch. I'll let Eric weigh in, and what they might have faced in the past with regards to obstacles. But that's sort of the unspoken element. Obviously, speed and strength are going to be huge in this with the breakdown of workouts that we have. But there is that skill component involved, and that's where you see the American Ninja Warriors coming in with their skill set, and the OCR addicts that are coming that have been to Tough Mudder events before and have had, have interfaced with things that if they're not exactly what they'll see at TMX are at least very similar. So there's that slight edge with having, learn how to do these things efficiently and quickly. The races here are going to be so tight that one slip up could cost the race. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these people who certainly have the fitness level to back it up and certainly should be able to tear through these obstacles are able to complete them when they're seeing them for the first time on July 14th.
I think that's why it's such an exciting it's such an exciting format too, because I don't think it's possible for one person to be the best at all the elements on this course. So some people are going to have their strengths and definitely have their weaknesses. So that's what makes that. I'm going to start calling it the $25,000 question because ultimately it is.
Correct.
Exciting to watch because you'll see different people approach it in different ways, and we don't get that all the time. World's Toughest, for example, it's whoever can sometimes just put their head down and can work through it and has enough grit to keep pushing through. But for this, it's gonna require a different approach and different skill set in different arenas, and I don't think one person has all the tools required to solve this puzzle.
Agreed. Yeah. And Iraq, the Panchek brothers are coming to TMX.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, guys, every time I'm writing down Tough Mudder X and abbreviate it to TMX, I start getting DMX songs in my head. So thanks, guys, for like the throwback. By the way,
in more ways than one, it's pretty cool. Like, I know that Chris and Nolan are thinking about the exact thing that I am right now. Speaking of DMX. But yeah, so the Panchik brothers, this is going to be a really, really cool thing. I mean, this is, if you followed the CrossFit Games at all, or just the CrossFit community, there's, rising from this community has been these like super families, right? Like the Smith brothers, the Panchik brothers, these power couples like Sam and Jen Dancer, like, and the Panchik brothers are all coming out here. So you're going to see like these boys and Kristen, Scott's wife, is also going to be competing. So it's like an entire family affair where, once again, we don't know, as Nolan said, we don't know yet who's going to rise to this challenge. It could be, an absolute like blowout. It could be like a really cool, challenge on all fronts. So I'm really interested to see how this super family, rises to the challenge, is able to adapt, and maybe they have the same strengths, maybe they all have the same weaknesses, maybe they're completely different, and it'll really expose like just how individual the athletes are. It's going to be that's I'm looking forward to that. Plus, they're just all great people too, and just going to be a lot of good vibes out there.
Totally. And there aren't just, we've just been talking about CrossFit athletes, but there are way more than CrossFit athletes that you have confirmed or that have already confirmed that they're competing, one of them being an Olympian. So can you guys talk about, we've got an Olympian running Tough Mudder X?
Yes, we do. Do you want me to take that one? Or you guys got it?
Go for it. You
right.
got it.
Yeah, so Aaron McKenzie, two-time gold medalist in rowing for the U.S. team, is going to be coming out. And Aaron has a really, really cool story. I know her personally, and she's super fired up to do this. Outside of what she's done, accomplished as an athlete, she also worked with her husband, Brian McKenzie, to put on these XPT clinics. These are clinics that are designed for, athletes looking for like that extra challenge. So she is really kind of helping to develop this new age, this new thinking in terms of like, understanding the body, understanding what mental grit really, really means. And she was excited to jump on this challenge because, grit is something that Tough Mudder does so well. You know what I mean? And in this short course format, as Nolan said, the world's toughest folks, they can put their head down and just keep grinding. Here, you're going to have to put your head down, you're going to have to grind, but you're also going to have to be technically savvy enough to like accomplish each and every one of the workout zones, blow through the obstacles, with grace and ease, you know what I'm saying? So it's all going to have to work together. So she was really, really excited to kind of like take what she's learning, take what she's teaching these other athletes, and really apply it to her own life and her own little like kind of race, you know what I mean? And so she's someone to watch out for. Plus, she's just a stud. I mean, obviously anyone who's risen to the Olympic level, I mean, you can't count them out.
Exactly. And for those that don't know, with XPT as well, I mean, that you've got behind you Laird Hamilton and his wife Gabrielle Reese as well. And I mean, you've got people like Tim Ferriss are going, and other top fitness professionals are all going to take part in XPT, and she's part of the whole program of it. So you're pretty sure that they are training, probably with that crew behind her, are training specifically to dominate and to maybe show the world a little bit of XPT, like how it can translate over.
I was just on a call with her 2 days ago, and she had just finished training for the Tough Mudder X, and we were talking about like what her training was looking like right now. And at this day and age with mental grit and working on really specific like physiological changes that can happen in training, she was working on this like new science that's coming out with hypoxic training and working on breath holds and breathing while doing the obstacles, while doing, which, by the way, she's like built obstacles at her house in Oregon. She's like fully into this thing. She's like, this is like her next step. So she's really excited. But like just hearing about how this whole XPT training is going to apply to TMX, I'm really excited personally to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. As someone that's kind of followed that, has done the breathing work and all that sort of stuff, I'm very excited to see how that translates over. And as well, I talked to a friend, a Ninja Warrior friend who's been on a bunch of their seasons, Maggie Thorne, and she said she's in and she's ready to take this on too. So it looks like there'll be some of the Ninja world there as well. But you guys have some top obstacle racers coming to the race, and I want to talk about like Hunter McIntyre coming, because he, from what I heard on your test course, although we talked about before that the final course is going to be different than the test course, but he dominated that course recently, so and beat Ryan Atkins. So like, who are we looking at for some of our top OCR athletes other than Hunter?
So I think there's a whole bunch of names that you would have heard from other, from our races, other races out there. The Cracker brothers are coming, so Bracken and his brother Macaulay, who have done really well, the Stadium Series events, short format, really intense, blasting through. So it'd be really cool. There's another, if we have the CrossFit families coming out, we also have some of the OCR families, I guess you could say, coming to really tear through this. Like you mentioned, Ryan and Hunter do well in pretty much any format they attack, and they'll be good to watch there. I think what we'll see play out is once you get a lot of great athletes out there, they'll push themselves even harder, knowing the guy next to them is gunning for the same thing with that big prize money on the line. It'll be really interesting to see, how much they throw themselves into it. So that'll be super exciting. And then a whole bunch of other names that people from OCR would know. Matt Kempson's coming out, Ryan Kent's coming out. A lot of people we know through the years at World's Toughest. We'll have Stephanie Bishop, Lindsay's coming, Lindsay Webster. So really a pretty stacked crew from the OCR community coming too, that hopefully will represent that discipline alongside the top talent we have coming from CrossFit and beyond.
Yeah, and I saw that I saw them say online that they had been accepted, and I'm going to say right now that I think they'll probably end up being a dark horse. We'll just see what the workouts end up being at the end of it. But you guys have Jung Pak, one of the Tough Mudder OGs, said that you guys had accepted him and that he's going to be going to it. So I don't know. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw his performance at World Toughest last year, but he came out of the gate just red hot, just really, really cruising. So Pop can run really, really well. And I think what we saw with the test event is, if you can make up ground on that run, you might hit some speed bumps when you get to the workout and slow down. But the balance of the course is just such that you'll see that back and forth. You'll really battle them the entire time to try to let their discipline reign supreme.
Definitely. And so I know I asked you this, I think it was last week when we talked, but and I guess this is Iraq again, kind of for you. And now that people you've sent out sort of the acceptance letters and whatnot, what is something that everybody that's been accepted should probably be putting into their workout routine to get ready for this event if they've been accepted?
Yeah, I mean, going back to that conversation I had with Aaron McKenzie, working on that hypoxic, I mean, Chris and I both ran the test event, and that was one of the hardest things is, when you're in the gym and you're training, there's that ability to kind of slow down a little bit, catch your breath a little bit before you head out on that run or before you start that next workout. What I would recommend, really is just digging into that grit aspect. I mean, this is, we're talking about a 10 to 15 minute just all out sprint. So you got to just be working that hypoxic range, focusing on that anaerobic threshold, trying to build that up, training within that zone. is going to be so important. I mean, just living without oxygen essentially is what I'd say to all the athletes. Just go for it, just start training, and interval work is really key. As it is in multiple disciplines. So yeah, I'd recommend that. Just working on intervals.
Excellent. And
the thing I'll add to that is for accepted athletes, we'll be sending out in the next couple of days the full-blown athlete pack that will cover all of the obstacles on course and all of the workouts, along with details that we've been getting a ton of questions on, how many reps, what the weights are, people without that CrossFit background, what the movement standards are. So all that detail is going to be going out very soon. I would encourage anyone that's been accepted and coming out to the event, they should really study that guide. If they're unfamiliar with the movement, they should test it out, or if they've done the movement, but a lot of the workouts we're putting out there, we're using heavy sandbags and things, which is a lot different than using a bar if you've ever used those. So they should really look at the details of what we're putting out, get to the gym, test it out, make sure their form's good. The last thing you want is to be no reps in the middle of your heat. So yeah, just really study up on that, test everything out, and be sure you're comfortable with it by the time you show up to race.
excellent. And Nolan, from the obstacle side, anything that anybody should be focusing on for sure?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is, we'll have a lot of Tough Mudder Classics out there. I think for anybody who's run a Tough Mudder event, they'll see a lot of elements that they'll know how to handle. We're going to be making some tweaks, so just anticipate that things that were difficult when you've done them on course before, either at Tough Mudder or World Toughest Mudder, are going to be a little bit trickier here, especially with the added element of getting your heart rate up and the mix of the workout zones. But other than that, I think, at least for the Tough Mudder community, they should be all right with it. I think if I were coming from the CrossFit side, that's something I would definitely take a look at. And there's a lot of videos online. You can go check out the obstacles. But I think, like Chris said, with the pack that we're going to be sending out, we'll give some detailed notes on the obstacles and what that means. But I think that's the real challenge for everybody coming out. If you haven't seen these obstacles, they may be pretty different for you to tackle.
Yeah, if I can expand upon that too, even just running the course weekend after weekend and just getting more familiar, Stage 5 Clinger is a great example. I mean, I watch, I can get over that thing pretty efficiently, but it's just, you got to spend the time on that stuff. The obstacles, once again, even for the OCR community, every moment counts. And so, getting those little tricks to kind of get over those obstacles really a bit faster, it's going to be a challenge. Whether you're strong enough or technically sound, it's really going to be about those little nuances, and it's just going to be about staying on that or getting some time on those obstacles on practice day.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for taking the time. This has been great, and I know that this made me get even more excited, so I'm sure that other people are going to be more excited, and I'm sure people are already going to be online arguing over who are the best athletes. So I'm really excited to see you guys are really pulling in all aspects of sort of the different fitness communities and putting everybody up against each other.
That's the goal. It's really, I mean, the product team has done a great job. I mean, they've laid the groundwork for what could be the real absolute test for the most fit athlete. And I think it's there. So we'll wait and see.